Okay, hello everybody. So welcome to our last session of the day. This is called Councils of the Future, Digitally Paving the Way. Confidence in digital technology is changing the way our customers want to interact with us. And more of the services we rely on every day are moving online. Everything from education, healthcare through to information on when bins collected is online. And furthermore, access to these services are being extended using mobile apps and service tools. However, many councils and public bodies are still running their activities with a traditional mindset rather than one developed to take digital into account from the start. So how do innovative authorities grasp the digital nettle and move to a digital-first mindset? How do they spearhead the transformation of the area into a smart community where citizens are empowered to shape services and create and shape the places that they want to live? Our last panel session of the day will look at how CIOs need to grapple with the challenge of balancing short-term versus long-term priorities and operational versus strategic issues. It will explore some of the strategic steps now being taken by innovative local authorities to prepare for the future and develop the business case for long-term change and transformation. I'd therefore like to welcome our three panellists. We've got Dr. Peter Bishop, if you'd like to wave, who's the Director for Digital and Customer Services for Birmingham City Council. We've got Kate Waterhouse, who's the CIO for Bury Council, and we've got Geoff Connell, who's the Director of IMT and Chief Digital Officer for Norfolk County Council. So if I could welcome Kate to the stage first of all for a short talk.
Thank you, and good afternoon. We've had a brief conversation about how we structure this, and I think the plan is to go 1, 2, 3 in terms of potential answers to those very challenging questions that were just set, and in terms of maturity and being able to respond. So I am Kate Waterhouse. I'm from Bury Council, Chief Information Officer, which is a new post that the council created 6 months ago. So I'm still relatively new in post and clinging on to that, so I can still say I'm the new person whenever anyone asks me a difficult question. But in terms of when I saw the headline for this about, how do you go ahead planning long-term vision with short-term challenges, I thought, yes, that's exactly it. That's my big challenge. That's my headache every single day. I think it's fair to say I joined the council knowing the challenges. We're part of Greater Manchester, and everyone knows Bury Council's the poor relation across the GM partnership. Everyone knows that we haven't spent a single penny on IT for the last 10 years, and it shows. So kind of knew the background to that. The council's approach to austerity was very much protect frontline services, keep everything as is, don't change anything, don't let the public know anything's happening, we'll just carry on, but we certainly won't invest in our back office, and that included IT for a long time. Instead, they were literally sent down into the basement of our ageing town hall with probably 2 rolls of electric tape and some blue tack and told to make, do and mend. And to their credit, they have, absolutely. In terms of system resilience and stability, I continually say I'm astounded that they have kept things going in the way that they have. They've eked out life cycles and licensing to the point of legality, I think, but we've made it there. And we were talking about this at a GM meeting recently. Almost the success criteria was keep quiet, nobody will know we're here, then nobody can cut us. So just keep everything going, don't make a fuss, and hopefully we'll all still be here on the other side of austerity. But we've got a new chief exec, we have new leadership politically within the same party but a different leader, and we've got some new opportunities as well. So that's a big opportunity for me to come in and have a look at things. And thankfully, just before I arrived, full council agreed a large-scale capital investment programme. It is capital, which has its challenges, but my head of IT, when I arrived, waved a laminated form at me saying, look, I've got £10 million to spend, yay, let's go. So that was great. We're also integrated with the CCG. Mine is a joint post, so that gives us some real opportunities. it also gives us some further challenges because they continually bang us over the head about how old-fashioned and out of date we are, and it's leading to a little bit of them and us that we've got to sort out. And we are part of the combined authority in GM, so that has its benefits in terms of there's lots of things we can be part of, but it gives us some additional challenges in terms of governance and thinking about what we do. So, all great. And to me, new CIO, jazz hands, full of ideas, want to do strategy, want to do vision, we can change the world, it's brilliant. We could do loads of things differently, woo! Yeah. And they all sat and looked at me like this and went, yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, great. Yeah, I get all that. There's a printer on floor 3 that's not working, hasn't been for years. Can you go and sort that out, Kate? Oh, you're CIO, aren't you? Well, Wi-Fi in council chambers always dropping out. Can you go and fix that, please? And, no mention phone coverage on the 3rd floor because, that's like, it's like, right, okay, deep breath. And there we have it, don't we? That challenge of wanting to change the world, wanting to think, right, well, we can go from where we are now to this great new future. How do we bring people along? And I think it was, as we mentioned this morning, digital is not about technology, it's about the people. And until we really understand what's going to motivate those people to change, then we're not going to get the change that we're looking for our organisations and for our communities. And it is that culture thing that I think has come through in a lot of presentations today. So we can be those advocates for change, but until we understand why people are still in our place really, really happy to be on a PC, in an office, never working from home, never leaving the town hall, we're not going to somehow win hearts and minds and get them out there working in an agile way. So we need to start with the team as well. As I say, we've got a team that was locked in a basement and told not to be difficult. I've discovered structures there that are crazy bonkers. I've got fixed-term contracts that I was asked to renew this month. I said, how long have you been on fixed term? 15 years. Like, how can that be a rolling fixed-term contract? Our previous leadership didn't think that digital was going to last. It was a bit of a fad, so we stayed with fixed term. Right, okay, so we've got that to sort out. And I really want to do that by driving some expectations through the organisation. I want them to be more demanding of us. I don't want us to be that silent partner in the basement that just keeps emails working. That's not what we should be about. So how am I going to balance all about this? I've got to come in with a really clear message that it's not about outsourcing, it's about outcomes. We have got to be adding value. We've got to be front and centre of achieving everything that Bury wants for the borough. So I'm not writing a digital strategy. I am part of the Bury 2030 strategy, and we have a work programme that will enable how we achieve those outcomes and how we improve life chances for people in our borough, which is one of the most deprived areas in Greater Manchester. So long term, that's how I'm repositioning things. I'm not having us as a siloed team that just have a separate way of working. We're absolutely going to be through and through what the council does. And that's helped by my role, because like in other places, very rarely just have one job now. So as CIO, I have responsibility for IT, policy, partnerships and performance. So I'm going to make damn sure we're threaded through all of that. And then short term, we're going to take opportunities from crises. When our telephony went down, that was a great way of fast-tracking, getting us off ISDN lines, getting us on over the internet provision, etc. And what better crisis than what we've got at the moment, that suddenly when you have to work at home, I'm getting a few more calls now about, can you tell me how I do that emails over the internet lark? So that's my new call from service desk at the moment. But we're going to capitalise on that, and the new normal is not going to be what it is right now. So that's my initial reflections. Over to the next one.
Yeah, I think you've just done one. Afternoon, everybody. We still are going, still motivated, excited, engaged, reading the BBC News pages for the next coronavirus update. I certainly am, because at 4:45 I'm briefing the Deputy Leader on our business continuity plan, so I'm a bit more focused on a few things. So welcome to the Birmingham area. Well, strictly speaking, this is Solihull, but we still love them. They're still part of our our region. Birmingham, it's big, 1.1 million people, a lot of issues, a lot of deprivation, similar to Bury, a lot of challenges, a lot about, what we're focused, how can we drive economic growth, huge challenges as a council, and for my role as Director for Digital, you've got to do all of that, all at the same time. So I really empathise, because I feel like digital leadership is really about PC support, because that's basically what I'm expected to do when I'm sitting in cabinet, is provide PC support. Just a few facts about IT. So we're big. We're certainly not unique, and events like this gives us great opportunities to share and learn. We've got about 12,000 users. We've got 1.3 petabytes of data, 460 systems that we manage in all sorts of states. Our contact centre takes 2 million calls per annum. Just thought, it's big. Our online transactions are 300,000 a month. So there's lots going on, lots of high volume. We had a rather large third-party organisation, who I won't mention, who were a core part of our world. And one of my messages for us all, and I think the ones that actually we're all probably doing, is how do we take back control? And how do we control the right things that we need to do to achieve the outcomes, both as a city and as a place? And I think that's been 2 years of my life in terms of taking back control. We had a large strategic partnership with an organisation who I won't mention, but is probably well known to you. They earned £1.2 billion from the council. They had a typical hockey stick style to investment. Actually did a lot of really great work, stabilised a very, very unstable service, but then continues to exploit the council for cash and revenue generation, which didn't help us. So in the world of digital, fast-moving, lots of change, lots of innovation, if you've got a massive contract that you cannot work with, that controls everything end to end, everything, how do you deliver real value for the employees and for the citizens of Birmingham? And that was the key challenge that I was set. We had a few building blocks. Strategy, it's clearly an important part of our space. Getting back control gives us then the ability to flex and become the kind of agile organisation that as a council we need to be, but also as a digital service we need to be. Leadership is key, although it does feel like one step forward, 2 steps back. What's great, if there is anything great about this crisis that we're going through at the moment, and I think, Geoff, I think it was you or somebody said that it's now accelerating our agile working and adoption of new technology, and suddenly everyone's waking up to what it actually genuinely can do and what they can actually do now, which is brilliant. The other thing is about the team. We're not going to do what we need to do as an authority influencing those outcomes without the right team, and they need to be organised for success. So we put a lot of energy into that renewed focus about what they're about and what they're doing and why they're doing it. And that has unlocked actually a lot of talent for improvement, actually at a small scale as well as a large scale. And that's really helpful, and that was all part of the plan. And I think and Kate sort of covered it at one level, you've got the instant operational challenge versus the long-term strategic development and economic value creation in Birmingham City enabled by digital. Okay, so you've got to do that. And that's what our role is. It's about managing all of that. And I think Geoff talks about the basics. You've got to do the basics. But from a customer experience point of view, you only need to have issues in your contact centre to get sucked right back into that basics. And that's our world. But that's what we signed up for, right? So that's okay. We're all happy with that. There's a really great little analogy that our Director of Children's Services used. It's about 1,000 steps, and I think it's really helpful for us to think about that. We can make some big leaps, but actually in terms of improving customer experience, it's a lot about those small incremental improvements that we need to make, we facilitate, we lead, and we shape as we deliver our services. So that's sort of my story. Geoff's going to give you the sunlight uplands now, so you know the excitement of broadband, rural broadband.
Good afternoon, everybody. Glad you're still here, the hardcore. I'm just actually going to cast my mind back a little bit. So I'm Geoff Connell. I'm at Norfolk County Council. I was at a couple of the London boroughs previously, and rural was quite different. And when I arrived there, it's fair to say that the basic core infrastructure, the basic services weren't working terrifically well. They were also very expensive. We had an outsourced contract that meant we didn't have control. We were paying somebody to run it for us, and we were still doing it ourselves. So year one, I was fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to basically not be too strategic, focus on getting the basics right. So make sure the day-to-day experience of staff works well and works reliably. And as was touched on by my colleagues, you have to earn the right to have the strategic conversation. So year one was getting those basics right. Year two was actually saying, well, we've stabilised some of that. Oh yes, and I had larger savings targets than they mentioned when I joined up as well. But fortunately, by insourcing one of the bigger contracts, we overtook the savings targets and built up a little bit of a war chest. So I was able to, thankfully, that wasn't all taken away from me, I was able to use that to raise my planning horizon to a 3-year strategic plan. And that basically focused on digital infrastructure. So that was place-based connectivity. So fibre, as far as possible. This was super fast days before ultra fast, but it was about improving mobile coverage at that point in time. We subsequently moved on, and some of you heard earlier, we've now got pretty much a ubiquitous LoRaWAN IoT network, which we've deployed pretty fast and pretty cheaply. And I've quite enjoyed doing those things in a rural context. That's a bit different to what's required in London. And I quickly came to realise that it's about whole place-based digital leadership. So digital connectivity is the underlying infrastructure that things run on by the NHS, by district councils, by the county council and various other organisations. But it's not just about that underlying infrastructure. Of course, it's digital skills. And that's just as relevant for residents and businesses as it is for our own staff. And I also came to realise that pretty quickly. There was a historic deficit of digital skills development for our workforce. So when we deployed a lot of great kit with some consistent, standardised technology running on it, and it was reliable, that's great, but a lot of people couldn't really exploit it terrifically well. And what I've tried, and I've worked hard, and I think it's gone pretty well to do, is to develop distributed digital leadership. So it's not just my bandwidth or that of a few of my key colleagues. We have a digital program in adults, a digital program that's developed in children's, likewise in finance and certain other areas. So working together, we've taken some of these things forward. And one of the highlights for me was adult social care, where they spend £1 million a day just externally. We've got thousands of social workers, but we need rather more, and we can't afford them. Also, even if we could, we couldn't get them. They don't exist. So the answer has to be make them digitally more productive. So we train them heavily, we develop new ways of working, new processes for them, plus the tech, put those things together, and we're looking at about half a day of increased productivity per social worker per week. And if you've got 1,000 plus of them in adults, that's really something. So we're now rolling that out across children's, and that's great. And part of unblocking the roadmap, which is unblocking the bandwidth capacity from the IT department, is moving across to low-code technology, so robotic process automation, some of the new Microsoft technologies like Forms and Power Apps, that kind of thing. I think they're really interesting, and they allow us to work in a different way with our user base so that we have a combined capacity rather than just being the IT department. So I think that's an important component in unblocking how we take digital out across the whole organisation. And the digital skills that I mentioned earlier, yes, they're for frontline staff to use the tech properly, But at least as important, their digital leadership skills for the managers to know how that they can take the tools, take the opportunities to digitally redesign the way they deliver services. And the last component I will mention is, in terms of that 3-year strategy, is better use of data. So it's one of the great untapped resources I think we have, both in our own organisation, and we've got 2 billion records for A&E from NHS across the whole country. So our public health people can do some really incredible stuff, but they need to know how to use the tools. They need data skills as well as digital skills. So that's been very much part of our roadmap. And as I said, it is about whole place-based working. So we're trying to create single identity management, for example, for the county. So if you don't know if it's the district or the council or the county council that delivers services, it doesn't matter. You sign in once, we don't ask you to repeat information, and you can hop across those different websites. If you don't know if it's health or care, again, we're looking to use the same identity. So we're coming towards the end of that 3-year roadmap, and I've got a chap, Stephen Boddington, at the back of the room. Give us a wave, thank you. He's helping me to deliver a 10-year tech roadmap at the moment, and I'm really enjoying that, actually, lifting our head up, looking into the distance, and saying, what do we absolutely know we're going to do over that period, such as deploying gigabit fibre infrastructure? And actually, what's brand new and emerging at the moment, where we're probably just tracking it at this point in time, but it will be something we're doing further down the line. So we're doing everything from the stuff we've definitely got budgets for and we're funding, through the stuff that we're tracking and we'll bring in further down the line. But we've got some really interesting conversations going on across the council and with wider stakeholders about what does digital mean to us over an extended period of time and how do we plan for that. So that's my intro.
Thank you very much, Geoff. So I'd like to open it up to the floor for questions. Has anyone got a question? Stunned silence. Yep.
Do you think the coronavirus is going to change the way people think about working remote? And how?
Geoff, would you like to answer that?
Definitely yes. As they say, never waste a good crisis. And I was fortunate enough, I was saying to colleagues about 3 weeks ago, we ran a remote working day when we said, well, we've got a load of new wide area network infrastructure in place. We'd like you to all work from home or remotely and try and break it. They gave it a good shot but failed, so I'm really pleased with that. We had 3,700 staff that worked from home, most of them running video and their biggest, hardest queries. And I think what will happen is they'll try it for the first time and a percentage of them will then keep doing it. I think Corona could well massively accelerate that, certainly things like rollout of Teams and the like. I'm asked if we had to do it really, really fast, what would that look like? And even events we go to that, or meetings that used to be face-to-face only, I'm seeing them increasingly now being face-to-face or virtual, join in how you can. I think afterwards a lot of that will just continue. That's my guess.
I mean, my view is that it's catapulting us into agile working, and that is, I think, the only silver lining, really, of the current situation. So certainly in my authority, I'm seeing a mass rush to work, to be people to enable themselves to work from home. And I think once people have got over any resistance that they had for working from home, I think it will continue. So I think that is one shred of positivity, I think, from the current situation.
I was just going to say yes, and it's also highlighted that there's a different set of skills that you need to do that. So it's one thing having the kit, it's another thing getting home and making that work. And one of the reasons why people don't like it is because we've all sat there through those truly awful telephone conferences where everyone speaks at once, then nobody speaks and nobody knows who's on the line, and all of those kind of really dysfunctional things that happen. So we've got to be able to support it as well in terms of giving people not just the kit but the skills, and that means people also admitting that they haven't got some of those skills. So it's a really tall ask, but I think being forced into it will make it happen a lot faster than it would have done otherwise.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, I was really encouraged to hear about the longer-term perspective that's being talked about. I'm trying to square what Kate was saying about aligning with Berry's 2030 strategy for the wider organisation and the community and place in which you work, with Geoff
is a 10-year roadmap for how technology will be exploited across the council and across the place. So the tech roadmap is only there to enable the delivery of business outcomes. We have almost no IT projects. They're all business-led, and I think that's the key. Business-led, enabled by technology.
I think the bit for Birmingham is, and we've become, we've had to sort out a lot of the basics, but actually we've got to draw around our boundary and say, well, how can we help the economic development and well-being of the people who live in this place? I think the difficulty that we're finding is how do you stitch together all the partners, the third parties, all the interested groups to have that city vision, which you can then sort of weave into all the technology opportunities that can come, and 5G is sort of one of those little bits. But that partnership at a macro level needs feeding and watering, and it needs looking after, and it needs investment in time and effort to manage all the relationships involved. Because that's what it's about. It's making that positive difference to people's lives through the use of technology in all sorts of ways. Birmingham's set to save £750 million. So investing in those partnerships is one area that we've had to make judgments about spend.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so I'll close. So, thank you very much, Peter, Geoff and Kate. So it's time to close the conference. I'd like to remind you that the dates for Share Digital 21 are on Thursday the 11th of March 2011. I'd like to end with a quotation from the American poet Wallace Stevens, who said, "Human nature is like water, it takes the shape of its container." And I like to think of service delivery like this. People will choose the quickest and simplest and most convenient way to go through a process, such as applying for benefits or council tax, paying council tax. And if digital is the easiest way and the most convenient way for those people, then they'll use it. But if the route is not easy, if it's a poor user interface or a poor experience, then they won't use it. Every one of us in this room are all on a digital journey, and I do hope the talks today and the opportunities to link up with your peers have been useful. The importance of sharing our successes and sometimes our failures shouldn't be underestimated. And I genuinely feel that in the public sector, digital really shouldn't be a competition. And events like today help us to support each other and share ideas, share best practice, but also things that went wrong, things to avoid. So I'd like to thank you all for attending and your contribution at the round tables. Of course, I'd like to thank our speakers for their insights, and a big thank you to all of the sponsors, without whom events like this today couldn't take place. So once again, thank you all for coming along today in the light of what's happening with the coronavirus, and I wish all of you a safe journey home. Thank you all very much.